Now, residents of Maiduguri, the Borno state capital, have commended some philanthropists in the state selling fuel for 430 naira per litre for a whole day as against the 637 naira. They gave the commendation during the flag-off of the palliative in 2 petrol stations in Maiduguri. The initiator of the gesture says this move is in line with Nigeria's First Lady Oluremi Tinubu's call on well-meaning Nigerians to assist government in any way to improve the living conditions of the people. Ibrahim Mohammed says both commercial and private vehicles benefited from the succor.
The government alone cannot do everything, so help the people around you. So that is why this Good Samaritan decided to help people of Borno State and the entire nation. This is flagging off to start in Borno State, but we are going to conduct such palliatives in all the nation, in geopolitical.
And for more on the removal of subsidy on petrol and efforts to cushion its effect headlong, Managing Director, West Park Engineering, Samuel Deminas, join me now on the news. The debate on fuel subsidy removal is still on, and that's between Labour and federal government. What is your take on this?
Good afternoon. The fuel subsidy removal, I think, as everybody has acknowledged, is actually the right thing to do. However, it comes with a lot of effects, general effects on the populace. And what the Labour is clamoring for, in my opinion, is something different. We're talking about palliatives or how to ameliorate the suffering of the people. To be sincere, salary reviews, providing palliatives and other conditions to reduce the suffering of the masses or the people is long overdue. Whether you have the fuel subsidy removal or not, our inflation has been very, very high. People have been earning the same salary for a very long time. So I think what is very necessary to deal with this situation is effective communication between the agents of the government and the Labour.
All right, let's talk about the arguments from Labour, which of course says that interventions were not planned before the decision. What more can government do beyond what had been done already?
First of all, they are right. But there's an issue here, which is transitory. The current government was not the government that removed the subsidy. The subsidy was already planned for removal. So in terms of planning, yes, there was some form of dysfunction. But I sincerely think that, especially because a lot more revenues are accruing to the government, the removal of the subsidy has its own positive on our revenue and the national income. I think Labour has a point from the perspective of discussions concerning an increase in activity. There is never a good time to remove fuel subsidies. But I think, as I had said earlier on, a very, very intensive and honest negotiation across board would be necessary. But to be very clear, the subsidy removal, which in my opinion hasn't even been done very effectively, it's a policy that the government has to stick with.
All right, let me talk to you quickly on the local refineries coming up soon, starting with Port Harcourt Refinery in December, and of course, the Dangote Refinery. Do you see this as some glimmer of hope?
So we need refineries in Nigeria, but there's a catch-22 situation here. With the subsidies, refineries will not grow. But let's go to the Dangote and the Port Harcourt refineries. Those would help, but those are not cost control mechanisms. And I think that's the problem we have. The argument for local refining has always been how it is going to reduce the price of fuel. It is not going to reduce the price of fuel. It actually is going to even be more costly because there are several factors in running a refinery besides the transportation of the crude oil product itself. So yes, for the Dangote Refinery, for other private refineries, for the Port Harcourt Refinery and other national-owned refineries. The positives there are local production, employment, revenue to the nation in terms of taxes and so on and so forth. But it would not improve or help with any form of cost reduction. This needs to be made clear. Otherwise, at some point, the masses will turn on these the refineries or the private refineries, and we will get into some other different arguments.
All right, Managing Director, Westpark Engineering, Samuel Diminas, sharing his thoughts with us on the development we're tracking at this time, talking about the removal of fuel subsidy on petrol and, of course, efforts to cushion its effects headlong. Thanks for sharing your thoughts with us.